it kind of felt like I was working super hard for someone else's dream and someone else's company when I could have been doing that for myself and making a difference, in all sports and to more women. So I kind of started doing it on the side as a little bit of like a side hustle. And then just kind of said like, you know what, I just had that gut feeling. And that's honestly, I wing everything and follow my gut. And my gut was just saying like, it's time, do it.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here.
Do you have a side hustle that you dream of turning into a business one day? Are you thinking about forging your own path and launching a business in the sports industry? Or are you interested in learning about how other women have done this? Friends, I am so excited to introduce you to the new series, Off the Beaten Path. Once a month during the spring, you will hear from women who have forged their own path and started their own business in the sports and entertainment industry. Today, we kick it off with 2 of my favorite people, Kyla Lane and Paige Martin. Kyla is the founder of Her Soul Shot, and Paige is her incredible podcast co-host. Her Soul Shot shows women how powerful they can be through sport by providing inspiration, resources, and opportunities for women to live their soul's truth through sport. Listen in as Kyla tells us how she took the leap of faith and the lessons she has learned so far in being an entrepreneur. Listen in as Paige tells us how she balances a full-time job and a side hustle with Her Soul Shot. I'm going to say it. These 2 women are incredible, and they are going to leave you feeling inspired and ready to take on the world. They are going to truly speak to your soul. All right, friends, let's do this. Kyla and Paige, welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
We're excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. I think this has been a big old circle on our calendar for a little while.
Oh, yeah. This is the first time I'm interviewing 2 people.
I know. No pressure.
No pressure. And this is the start of Off the Beaten Path, which is an idea I came up with when you guys interviewed me. I was like, how do I get you on my podcast? And then I was like, I'm going to create a series because it's my podcast and I can do whatever I want.
Heck yeah.
Here we are.
I love that. Well, we're happy to be your inaugural Off the Beaten Path guest, and I hope that we do it justice.
I'm sure you will. And then if you don't, Stephanie will make us sound really, really good. So it's all good. But I'm sure you guys will be amazing. Let's take it back in time. And you guys tell me, we'll start with Kyla. Tell us when you first fell in love with sports.
Yeah. So I was 4 years old and I distinctly remember the memory. So hockey is my number one sport. And that's the first sport that I started playing. And my brother played and my dad coached his team. And I remember going to the rink and watching and just being so excited. And I asked my parents, can I just go skate around with them? My brother's 3 years older. So I was like, I just want to be the kid sister that just goes out there. And I remember being 4 and my mom getting off the phone with the other coach saying that it was okay. And I was running around the house like a wild child, just so excited. So ever since I can remember, basically, I've loved sports and they've played a huge role in my life up until today. Even with COVID, it really sucks not having them because I'm a beer league hockey player. But yeah, it all started at 4 years old for me.
Wait, so did you start playing hockey at 4? Is that what you said?
I started skating at 4. I also, another story, we went to the rink, my mom and I, before we picked up my brother from school, and I got my skates on and she was like, don't skate all the way to the end because you won't be able to get back here. And of course, my little 4-year-old self was like, yeah, right. Like, I'm a good skater. I can do it. I got to the end and I was so tired and I just sat down and she had to come get me. So thanks, Mom.
Wait, did she have on skates?
No, she had to like walk out to come get me. So
yeah. My mom would have left. My mom would have left me right there. She was like, when you're ready, you take your time. Yeah. I'm not getting on that ice. That's so funny. All right, Paige, tell us, when did you first fall in love with sports?
I think that I also would say 4 years old as well, because my very first memory was when I grew up with an older brother who's 6.5 years older than me. And he would always allow me to go and play hockey with him and his friend, road hockey, I should say, with him and his friends. And we lived on a court and it was super awesome because all the kids would just go out and play. And that was one of those moments where I was like, I love this. I'm super competitive for a 4-year-old. And it was a little bit maybe of an issue sometimes. But then from there, it was like, that's where I grew up playing basketball my entire life. And that was kind of like where all of my friendships really started and grew. And also, I would say like a lot of my leadership qualities, I guess, found in those spaces. And it was just where I was most comfortable. So when I look back, I'm like, yeah, I have so much to thank because of sports. Obviously, that was kind of something that as I finished high school, realized that I wasn't going to be a professional athlete, but also realized that it was possible to make it incorporated into my career. So I feel like every day I wake up super excited that that's still an element that I'm very much a part of.
That's awesome. And then you get to be competitive. I'm sure that did not end when you were 4. I'm sure it's part of your DNA, and I can only imagine.
Well, and I'll tell you a funny story that happened a couple days ago. So I've recently, and Kyla has been one of my biggest cheerleaders for this, started playing hockey because I never actually did. So I took the, being able to play road hockey and being able to skate, and I put it together. And actually just last night for the first time, I went on with all my equipment and it was terrifying. But my mom is a life coach and I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to join this league. Like, it's terrifying, trying a sport out as an adult. And she was like, well, does it foster your passion for competitiveness? And I said, like, why was that the first thing that you listed? Yes, it does.
So, oh my goodness. We could do a whole podcast episode on having a mother who's a life coach.
Oh, we absolutely could. I'm sure that my siblings would be more than happy to participate as well. So,
yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. So this podcast, the theme of this series is off the beaten path. So tell everybody what you two do. I usually say what you do and who you do it for, but you do it for yourself. So tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
We work for Her Soul Shot, and I started that. It's actually a funny story because Paige and I have never met in person, which, Jahaan, you found out when you asked us for a picture together, and we were like, yeah, so we gotta have one.
Wait, so you guys are business partners and have never met in person?
It's never the wildest feeling when I think about it, because you have one of your like soul humans is what I call Kyla for me. It's like someone that just kind of understands everything that you're always thinking and feeling. And when you have that connection with someone, but you've actually never met them, the most interaction we've had is via a Zoom call. So yeah, it's
plenty of wine nights on FaceTime.
That's crazy. So you guys are going to have to, you're probably already planning this, but when you do finally see each other in person for the first time, if we could all get video of that, that would be great.
Oh, yes, totally.
Yeah,
all the social
lots
content.
Lots of yelling, lots of tears.
I'm going to cry. Yeah, I'll cry. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to cry over. I mean, like I haven't seen my sister in, I think it was 10 months. And so when I saw her this winter it was the end of December, she just started like crying. And I was like, and I cried before while I was waiting for her at the door. I was crying, like waiting for her to pull up. And then she got there and she started crying, not knowing that I was already crying.
Yeah. I love that. So wholesome.
So we want to see some tears.
Oh, it'll happen.
Oh yeah. It'll be a wholesome moment. So yeah, actually Paige, I interviewed her at my former job with Women's Hockey Life for an internship, and she turned me down. I love to tell everyone that, but it was meeting Paige. It was like, I remember calling my mom after and being like, there's like another me out there. Like she's like a mini me, and the same passions and the same just kind of vibe and mindset towards life and sports and everything. And so we kind of like talked on and off after that. And then I started Her Soul Shot, and Paige, I think we were just talking on social, and you were like, hey, like, let's jump on Zoom or FaceTime, whatever. And I just want to hear all about it. So we did that. And in that like meeting with some wine came the Her Soul Shot podcast. And now we do that together. I definitely consider myself off the beaten path because I never wanted to be in kind of the corporate setting. I knew that I was never going to be a super elite athlete, but I didn't see any areas for myself, whether it was, playing sports or working in sports, because I didn't want that, highest level, whether it was playing or working in. And so I just started my own thing and basically started a company that offers other girls and women everything that I wish that I had growing up. And I'm so thankful that Paige has kind of come on this journey with me. And, she's my person. When my gut is telling me something, I'm like, okay, I'm running this by you. Like, am I crazy? Is this right? Because I feel like we all need those people. And yeah, so that's kind of how this all started.
Okay. So you started this business and you invited Paige to join. Did I get that right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, it was really like, she said, and I think I kind of want to do a podcast. And that was where journalist me was like, I know how to work a microphone sometimes. Do you want help? And then Kyla was like, yeah, let's meet next week and actually kind of plan this out. And I love that, because like you can dream up ideas with your friends of let's start a podcast. But then Kyla was like, no, let's meet next Thursday and we'll actually figure this out and then start it.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
And so it's like, you actually are going to do it. And I was like, this girl's legit. And also all of, what she wants to accomplish so aligns with me as well. This is it. This is so cool. It's just happening.
Wow. So you guys decided, okay, let's do this together. We are going to be like business partners. Like who asked who? Like, Kyla, did you ask, or Paige, were you like, I want to do this with you?
Oh, I was very much like, Kyla, can I please be part of this? Please.
And I feel like, yeah, that's pretty much how it went. But for me, it's like, of course, like I want Paige on board, but I think I feel so bad because like I can't pay a full-time salary or anything like that yet. And as much as I tell Paige, like as soon as I can, you'll be my first hire. And so for me, it's like, I get in that mindset of like, no, I have to do everything myself because like, I can't expect people to just do this for free and whatever. And Paige is over there like, I'm technically not doing it for free because it lights up my soul. So please let me do it. And that's something that I'm working on, is like letting people help me. And Paige is very good for just being like, no, I'm helping. So
yes, exactly. You just got to get in there, right? Like you can't, sometimes you can't wait for that invitation. Paige, I'm going to ask you this in a second, because I know you're working full time, but Kyla, so you knew corporate wasn't for you. How did you figure that out?
Well, I just kind of, I don't want to say that I have a problem with authority, but I don't like bosses, especially bad bosses. Like I need to do my own thing on my terms, and it has to be something that I like believe in fully. To like, I am super motivated by passion. Like it's not money, it's not whatever, it's passion and like making a difference. And so out of high school, actually, I randomly took a semester of massage therapy school because that's the only avenue I saw for myself in sports. I didn't even want to be, but I saw, sports massage therapist. And at that time, I didn't believe that I could do more, that I could go to university and, do anything else. So I did that. It was terrible. I hated it. And so I switched past there, ended up going to university for communications. And then from there, that's kind of how I started feeling out like, oh, like I can do this or this or this. And I still, even when I graduated university, I didn't fully know what I wanted to do. And I ended up working in a hockey space that was for the Oilers here, the NHL team. And it was very male dominated. And I liked it. It was, at the time, I thought it was my dream job, but I got to a point of feeling like I'm not making a difference. Just talking about hockey and stats and all this stuff, it doesn't matter to me. Like, yeah, I'll sit and watch a hockey game, but that's not what I want my life to be. I need to do more. And so I also kind of realized how women got treated in that space, and it's not always very well. And so it kind of just lit this fire in me of like, okay, I can do more here. And then that's when I kind of moved over to Women's Hockey Life, which is an online company, and worked there for 3 years full time, and then decided to do my own thing. But I don't want to say I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, because I don't think that I ever saw myself doing this until a few years ago. But I've always had that I just need to do what I want. And that doesn't really always work well when you're in that corporate setting and people are telling you what to do all the time.
Was it easy to take that leap of faith and just start your own business?
Yes and no. So I kind of started working on the kind of loose plans for it, of what I wanted it to look like when I was at Oilers Nation. And, you know, working for Women's Hockey Life, it felt like it was kind of checking a lot of those boxes that having my own company would. And then it just got to a point where it kind of felt like I was working super hard for someone else's dream and someone else's company, when I could have been doing that for myself and making a difference, you know, in all sports and to more women. So I kind of started doing it on the side as a little bit of like a side hustle. And then just kind of said like, you know what, I just had that gut feeling, and that's honestly, I wing everything and follow my gut. And my gut was just saying like, it's time, do it. And I just did it.
Yes. Oh, I love that. I just got the chills. That's fantastic. Okay. I have some more questions, but I want to hear from Paige, because what I like about this is you guys represent two different approaches when it comes to going off the beaten path and starting your own business, especially in the sports industry, which can sometimes be scary. And I mean, it could be for any industry, but this is what we know. So it's scary in our industry. So Paige, this is your, technically I'm doing air quotes here, but your side hustle, correct?
Yeah, like this is very much a passion project, I would like to call it, I think, because I work full-time in the corporate world within communications, and then also when COVID isn't happening as a sports reporter as well. And so very much have other jobs as well. But what I love so much, you know, about specifically my corporate job, because that's kind of my focus right now, is, and within the city that I'm in, London, like the hockey team that I work for and then the corporate company that I work for, everyone is just very centered around, you know, their passion for the city. And so when I came into the corporate world, they were so accommodating of like, do whatever you need to do. We know that this world is your passion, and this world is just like a very good logistical, practical thing for you to have. And we're cheering you on for whatever that means. And so it was really nice to be able to enter into a space where they knew what my passions were, and I was able to lay that out on the table and say, hi, this is my priority. Do you still want me around? Do you still love me? And for them to be like, yes. And whatever we can do to help you continue to take steps forward for where you actually want to go, we will allow. And so it's cool because, especially with her Soul Shot, when we have an interview in the afternoon, I'm just able to tell my boss like, hey, I have a podcast interview. And she's like, that's so awesome. I can't wait to listen. And that's the response that I get. And sometimes I feel like I'm living in a dream. It's true.
If all corporate was like that, I might have worked in corporate.
Yes. Yes. 100%. That's right. Yeah.
So people sometimes they're like, why are you still there? And then I say things like this and they're like, oh, I literally had a checkup meeting with my boss the other day. And I had done an interview for International Women's Day with Megan Hunter, who works for the Chicago Blackhawks. And I posted it on LinkedIn, and she was like, Paige, I loved that interview. All I want to do within this next half an hour is talk about that interview. And one day, I promise, we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that you're not here anymore and you're out there working with her. And I was like, you're the best. Like, that's so cool. So yeah, that was a very, very roundabout way of answering your question, but
I do it all the time. So I followed you, and like, you're speaking my language. I'm a storyteller as well. So I was right there with you. Talk to me, or talk to everyone who's listening. How would you recommend, like, a lot of people are afraid to have the side hustle and have a full-time job, or they're afraid they're in their full-time job and they know like, if I start doing this other thing where I'm going to be visible, having this second side hustle, the second job, my company's gonna get mad at me, or I don't think I can do that, or what recommendations would you give them?
For me, I think that it's huge to have transparency across the board. That means transparency with yourself, with the people that are close to you, and then also transparency within your side hustle and within your actual job as well. And just being able to actually lay everything out on the table in all of those areas. And I'm very good at getting inside my head and thinking, maybe is my boss upset that I'm giving this attention right now? Or like, is Kyla upset that I can't give her and her soul shot all that attention as well? And it just comes to a point of being able to be like, hi, can we address this, and just have those conversations? And then, because I'm very good at getting within my own head. But I think that it also takes transparency with yourself and making sure that you can answer honestly, whatever your side hustle is, that the mission and the goal of that side hustle aligns with whatever sets your heart on fire, or whatever your values are as well. And so it's so easy for me to want to do a podcast interview at night after I've worked all day as well, because it doesn't feel like work to me. We're telling the stories of women across, I guess, the continent, and like that's just something that I absolutely love. That doesn't feel like work. It feels like getting to know another friend, really. And so that's what kind of makes it easy for me. And I think just being able to check in and say, okay, is this still filling me up? Yes, it is.
You said something interesting that we all go through in getting in your own head. So I imagine, and Kyla, I'm going to ask you this in a second, but I imagine the balance of this job is balancing both of your jobs can sometimes be tricky, like you just said. So talk to us a little bit about how you go about that.
I think that it has been very important for me to keep my outlets very close. And for me, that's sports and also exercise. And that actually really helps me kind of filter my brain almost. And that's where I do my best thinking and my best decision making. I mentioned before, I also have a life coach of a mother. So those conversations can also be very beneficial for me. And just being able to have people close to you that remind you of what's important to you, because I think it can be very, especially if you're working on something that you're passionate about, but it gets to be so much, but they're able to bring you back and say, this is why you're doing it. And then you say, oh yeah, you know what? I am stuck in the middle of it right now, but also at the end of it, this is what's going to come of it. And yeah, I think that it's so important to be able to have those things very, very close to you. And I mean, it can be hard, like to not be in your head. And I allow myself the space to be in my head because I need to be, I can't just ignore it. So I allow myself the space to say, okay, let's spend the next 25 minutes being stressed out, feeling that emotion very, very, very deeply. I'm a very big, super feeler, and you're going to feel it. And then you're going to take action of how you can accomplish that. Does that mean after those 25 minutes, you're going to go on a walk and you're going to be able to filter it? Because that's what can work for me. Does that mean that you're going to call Kyla? Does that mean that, you're going to be able to journal or whatever it may be? Yeah.
I love that. You sit with it. You sit with your feelings and you don't run from them. You say, hey, I'm here. I'm going to listen to what's going on. But you don't live there, right? You don't stay there forever.
No, absolutely not. It's uncomfortable and it's hard, but something that I love to say is that you have to become comfortable with the uncomfortable, or else if you're not going to look at those emotions smack dab in the face, you're gonna come across them eventually. Maybe it's a month down the road, maybe it's a year or several years down the road. And so, I mean, allowing them to not build up as much as possible and just instead being able to say, this is okay, you are okay, but let's feel this. And then you're going to be okay again after.
Yes. I just did an episode on anxiety, living with anxiety. And I was actually motivated to record it after you guys interviewed me for your podcast. And so and thank you. And so I loved talking about, and I hate that it happened, but I love talking about how I tried to run away from all of the things and ignore them and push them down because you got to keep going. And you know what I mean? We have big things happening here and World Series and postseason and craziness, and no one has time for emotions. Right. And so when I did that, I eventually landed myself in the hospital multiple times, multiple times, because my body was like, okay, fine. If you're not going to listen, here you go. Like, deal with this. You can't ignore this. And so for you to do this at I'm making some assumptions here by just looking at you at a young age is super impressive and so important.
Yeah. Well, first off, Paige, thanks for that. Cause now that's a tough act to follow.
I can frame the question a little bit different from you. I was actually going to do that if that's helpful. Or maybe This would be a good time to cut to commercial breaks.
We need to talk off the record.
Hey, Jahaan here. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I'm sure you are thinking about your own career right now and how you can pull out in front of the pack to take your career to the next level. For 18 years, supporting women in sports has been my favorite part of my career, and I would love to support you. Whether it's joining my free Game of Her Own community or one of my one-on-one coaching programs, I am here for you. Send me a message at jblake@jahaanblake.com or DM me on Instagram at jahaanblake, and let's schedule a time to have a free session. I cannot wait to hear from you. All right, let's get back to why you're here.
I love that. And I think it's funny because a lot of times, Paige, she talks like she kind of like looks up to me sometimes, but she forgets that like I look up to her. It's funny how we do that in ourselves. And I think that's part of getting in your own head is you're comparing yourself to other people. And you always think you're down here when like there are so many people who not idolize you, but they're like, wow, like, look at her. And like, that's kind of the relationship that Paige and I have. And there's such a transparency there between us that it hasn't always been easy. I think we've been like really learning to get in that groove of checking in with how we're each feeling. And, especially I know that Paige gets very busy. She's got a million freaking jobs. And so for me, it's like, you can tell me if this is too much. And usually she's like, no, I actually need this. Like I'm busy, but this is good. And then I like to like what she was saying about kind of being like solutions focused. Like you can sit in it, but what are we going to do about it? Like that's a big thing for me is I can't stand when people just love to complain. Oh. And then there's nothing at the end of it. And I'm like, so I just listened to that whole thing and you just said that whole thing. And like, that's all you wanted to do? Like, we're not doing anything about it. Like, what's the solution? Like, there's a problem, there's a solution. Like, so I have had to get really, really good at listening to my own body. And I think that comes back to, as well as like why I wanted to work for myself and have a flexible schedule and kind of do what I want, because I can be sitting at my computer an hour into the workday and all of a sudden I'm just like, okay, all I'm doing is staring at the screen and nothing is getting done. So in a real job, I would have to sit there for the 8 hours, even though I'm not getting anything done. But now I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter how long I sit here, something's got to change. So I go for a walk or I go work out or I call Paige or I do whatever I need to do just to kind of change the scenery and think about it and then try again later. And there are some days where it doesn't matter what you do, you're just not, your brain, your body, like you're not supposed to get any work done. And that's been a really important lesson to me, is just listening, because your body is telling you what it needs and what it can and can't do. And I feel like we so often try to just force it to do things and then we're not at our best. And especially with like the hustle mentality of, when I had my first job out of university, I was told by my boss at that time, like when I was your age, I was working in New York 80 hours a week because like I wanted that internship. And I was like, okay, so that's what you expect of me? Like that ain't gonna happen, because I have a life and I want to be sane and take care of my mental health, because I know that it can go downhill very fast and we have to get away from that. And that's one of the coolest things for me working with Paige and envisioning myself being a boss to other people, is I am not doing my job or any justice to this world, my business, my future employees, if I'm expecting that of them. So that's why, like, just always be transparent. And if you're just not feeling it, that's fine. Do it another day. Like sorry, I went off in like 50,000 different directions.
You guys are the same person. You both end the same way. Like when you like feel like you're done, you just go, yeah.
You should
should hear our phone calls sometimes.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It blows my mind that you haven't met in person. How do you figure out, Kyla, like what you just said? I agree with 100%. Right. And I actually remember when I was in grad school and I was working for the Red Sox, but it was part-time. And I remember we had like a double header. And so we were expected to work both games. And I was like, I'm sorry, you want me to work like 12 hours? Why would anybody want to work both? There's enough of us that you can split us up, or, like I've never managed people, and I'm not thinking about everyone else's schedules. Like, I'm just simple thinking, why do we all have to work? And so I remember I was having conversations with my professor. I remember standing in the hallway. I want to work in sports. I don't want this like craziness. I don't want this sort of like, as you called it, hustle mentality. Like, is this what I have to do to get a full-time job? What's funny is that later on, so I think I worked the double header because I'm very loyal to whoever I'm working for, or now it's like my clients who I work for. But then I was so loyal to my boss. I think I might have scooted out early because that's just too much time for me with the same people. And I plus like 80,000, you know what I mean? So I was just like, this is too much. But I found myself later working crazy hours, but kind of to Paige's point, it's because I loved it so much. Yeah. And I really loved working for the Red Sox, and I loved the people I worked for. And so when I worked really hard, I felt like I wasn't letting anyone down. Like I didn't want to let anyone down by leaving, and I wanted to like be a team player. So it kind of shifted. So I think if people who are listening are having the feeling of this hustle mentality is not for me, that's okay. Right? Like that's okay. Absolutely. And maybe you're not at the right spot, or maybe you'll just never want to work those crazy hours. But also at the other side, people who are listening who are like, what? I love a 12-hour day. Good. Keep doing it as long as it brings you joy. Like that's the most important thing. Right? Absolutely. How do you know how to shut it off? So now you're home. And I know as a business owner, when I took my leap of faith, discipline, I felt like freedom. Now I had been working in sports at that point for 15 years. So I just was like, oh my God, this is the newfound freedom. And I can do whatever I want when I want to do it. And I can go to lunch with my husband and have a glass of wine if I want to, or like cut out early. And like my friend and I had summer Fridays. Why do I have summer Fridays? Like I don't even work. It's just me. And so my friend and I, we had summer Fridays and like leave at like, it started at like 2, but then it moved up to 1. And then like I just took Fridays off. So like, discipline was I was not good at that in the very beginning. So talk a little bit about how you manage to work and turn it on and turn it off and all those things.
Well, first off, I don't think I do a very good job of it. I'm still learning as I go, but for me, and especially this past year, because I haven't had hockey to go to at night or, social gatherings or whatever. So I found myself working crazy hours and then wondering why I felt like crap. And for me, it's when I start to feel that like, oh, I don't want to work today. I don't want to do that. Like when I start feeling like I don't want to do it, that's a sign to me that I've been doing too much, because I love this business. I love what I get to do. I wake up excited for the most part, but when I'm not, that's probably an indication that I'm burning out. And so that's kind of what I go on, because there's some weeks that I can work 12 hours every day and be like super fine with it. And then there's other weeks where I hit like 4 hours every day and I've got like squirrel brain and I can't work anymore. And I love that I'm allowed, as the captain of this ship, to just say like, okay, then I guess I'm not working today. But I think especially as a business owner, it's really hard to shut it off, because if you're not working, your business isn't doing anything. It's not going anywhere. And especially right now, I'm pretty much doing everything. And until I can, get to the point of hiring people, I have to keep doing that. And that's when it comes down to prioritizing. So I can't, as much as I expect myself to be able to do everything at all times, it's not humanly possible. And so it's finding, okay, what's the thing that I need to get done today that's going to actually move the needle in the business? Like I can, sit on social and find some really great content like for hours upon hours, but at the end of the day, is that really going to move my business forward next year or 5 years down the road. And one thing that I've started doing in the mornings is power hours, as I call them. And I sit down and I start my timer for an hour and I work on the one thing that is most important to get done, or that I've been putting off that I just don't want to do. And I do all the other things before it. My timer has to hit 60 minutes before I can stop. And a lot of times once I get into it, I'm like 2-3 hours and I'm like, oh, I gotta do some other stuff. But it's prioritizing is really hard when there's a million things to do. But that's kind of, I guess, how I'm going with the flow, but I'm learning kind of the way that I work too. And that gets back to you saying, maybe you like the hustle, maybe you don't, but you have to find something that, like you said, brings you joy, and that there is no job or nothing worth sacrificing your mental health for, that in turn, a lot of times turns into your physical health, as you learned with anxiety and going to the hospital and stuff. And there's nothing worth sacrificing that. And especially as women in the sports industry, I feel like that narrative is that we have to hustle, and just work day and night to get that seat at the table. And that's not the case, because you might get that seat at the table after you've worked your butt off, but at what cost? If your mental health is going down the drain when you got there, was it worth it? And for me, it's not. Maybe for some other people it is, but it's not. And so you kind of have to weigh what's worth it and what's not.
Let's talk a little bit about the most important thing and why we are here, right? Tell us exactly what her soul shot is. Break it down for us.
Her soul shot, I mean, it changes a lot because I'm still kind of figuring out what the women's sports community needs. And that's kind of how what I'm letting drive this is what other people are saying, the resources they need, the inspiration they need, whatever it is. So at its core, it's a platform for women in sports to feel powerful and see how much power they have through sports. So it encourages them to take their shot in all areas of sport. As I found growing up and even now, there's such a, for all sports, but especially for women in sports, it's the pro leagues and going to university on a scholarship and, you know, working at the highest level for professional sports organizations. And that's kind of at the forefront when people think about sports, whether it's playing or careers. And for me, like, that was never the goal. Like I said in the beginning, I'm a beer league hockey player and I started my own business in sports. And so I'm trying to bring those areas to light. And there's nothing wrong if you're a professional athlete or, you know, you're working in the MLB like you did, but I want girls and women to see all of the avenues out there for sports, because there are so many, whether you want to play them or work in them or just be involved or coach or whatever it is. Just playing rec hockey and rec sports helps me in every other area of my life. But as women, if we played as girls, we usually give that up when we have our careers or motherhood, we get busy, sports usually fall off and we don't play them anymore. Or, you know, some girls don't even start sports because they don't want to play pro sports. So they don't see the value in it. And there's so much wrong with that, because there's so much value in sports. Even if you're not going to be at the top of your game, there's like, it's still, I just get so like, play sports, just be involved, because we've all seen the impact that it has on every other area of your life. So that's basically what Her Soul Shot is. We have a podcast. We feature stories and interviews with women in all areas of sports. We have a community board that you can post jobs on it. You can post your resume, you can post your company, whatever it is, so that it's this community hub for women in all areas to support and find different avenues in sports. A big part of it was going to be events, and then COVID hit. So eventually that will happen where, you know, it's a safe space for girls and women to get into sports, because I mean, Paige just started playing hockey, as she said, and which is amazing, but it's really hard to do. Like it's not always accessible, and it's scary, especially when you don't know anyone. And so I kind of want to make it this great safe space where women can maybe get together the first night and have some wine and get to know each other. And then the next week, you know, we hit the ice or we hit the court or whatever it is, and we play a sport to just really show women the value in sports, even when they're not professionals.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you. If you were in the elevator with a woman who works in sports and you wanted to tell her about Soul Shot, you only had like a minute, what would you say?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. And I'm burning through my 60 seconds already. I would say that, well, first of all, I would ask her, oh, wait, you said she is in sports? Oh my God, please edit this out. Okay, is she already involved in sports?
This is fantastic.
Or maybe leave this in. This is good content.
Yes, this is good content. And this is real. This is real.
I would say, oh my God, this is a really hard question. I would say that if she wanted to learn how powerful she could be in all areas of her life, that she should be involved in sports and that her Soul Shot can help her do that. And that she should check out, oh my God, Paige, your face right now is like, that she should check out the website, hersoulshot.com. Just going to plug that, and her social media. And I would also ask her what she needs in her life in sports. How can I make it easier for her to be involved in sports, to just whatever her goals are, and how I can help her accomplish that, because her Soul Shot is made for her by her. And that's kind of the whole thing is, you know, what do women need? So I would tell her about it, and then I would ask her what she needs so that I could hopefully bring that to the table for her. Because if she needs it, there's probably a million other women that need it. And I think I went over my 60 seconds, but I panicked, and I think that's what I would say.
It's okay. You're going to the top floor in the elevator. It's fine.
Yeah. How many floors are in this? We're just going.
It took everything in my power not to be like, ding, door opens. Sorry, you're done.
At this point, I'm just talking to myself because she's gotten off the elevator.
I think that was very well said. And then everyone who's listening, I'm going to link to all of those things, website, podcast, Instagram, any sort of social channels. I will link to those in the show notes for sure. Okay. So you guys talk a lot about beer league hockey, and I don't know that, I'm not familiar with it, but people who are listening may be familiar with it. So that means I'm assuming you're playing hockey. I know this because I've seen things on Instagram. Obviously, Paige, you just started. So women playing hockey to me is incredible. And not just because you're playing hockey, because it's a sport. You should be able to play hockey, and you should, but because not a lot of women do it, right? And so you don't see a lot of women playing, and you guys are getting out there and you're playing and you don't care what anybody thinks. But I got to imagine there's lots of trolls out there, right? And so because you're promoting it on your business, in Her Soul Shot, sites, like, are you getting, I always like to ask people this who have their own businesses, but are you getting trolled?
I don't want to say I'm glad you asked this, but this gets me so fired up. So I actually play hockey with mostly men. So that's how I met my fiance, is he joined our team. Play ice hockey and ball hockey, a little bit with women, but mostly on men's teams. And holy crap, for the most part, teams that I'm on, the men are absolutely amazing. I have played against a lot of men that aren't amazing and that don't think that I should be there. And I'm the goalie, so I know that I've gotten headhunted where slap shots are purposely coming at my head every time they shoot. I've gotten hit. I've gotten my fiance. It took him like a couple weeks after the game to tell me, but we beat this one team like, I don't know, it was like 8-1. And this guy scored and it went 5-hole between my legs. And he went back to his bench and said, just like I told you boys, right in the pussy. And I don't know if I can say that on this podcast, but that's what my fiance heard him say that. And then I was wondering why he like cross-checked this guy in front of the net. And then a couple weeks later, he decided to tell me what he had said. But the thing is that that's just what people have heard and what I have heard. I've been called sweetie in the handshake line. The thing is that I know that I'm good enough to be there and that I belong. And sometimes it's really hard. I've had to develop a really thick skin to continue playing there. It definitely helps that I have amazing teammates. And then, I mean, that's just on the ice. Online, it's like, especially on Twitter, I'm pretty active on Twitter. It's a bit of a tire fire sometimes because a lot of men don't think that we should be in that space. And especially my first job at a university with Oilers Nation, one of the first articles that I wrote, I got absolutely roasted on. And it was my big wake up call to what the hockey world and the men's sports world is like. And, there were comments of, oh, careful guys, I just drove past Kyla and she was running down the street with mascara running down her face. Like, be a little nicer to her. And like, just stuff about like, oh, you let a girl write for you, like all this stuff that it makes me so sad because I'm dealing with it and I've had to, learn to like, come at me. I'm going to be here. If anything, this just fuels me even more. But there's other girls and women who they might not take the path that they want to because that's deterring them. And that makes me so sad because not everyone wants to deal with that garbage. But as women in sports, we have to. And it's really sad.
What would you say to someone who's listening who says, you know what? Yes, I'm one of those people working in this male dominated industry and my little corner of the world, right? Because that's what you see so much going on and you think things are getting better. And you see teams like the Boston Red Sox who have so many women executives within their organization. So you think things are getting better, but then you hear a story like yours, Kyla. So women who are listening who feel like, okay, I'm one of those people who I work in an area that's male dominated and it's intimidating or it's not worth it. Forget the intimidating. It's just like, they just feel like it's not worth it. And they feel like it's not worth them pursuing what they want to go after. What advice would you give them?
I would say if it brings you joy, do it. Find a way to handle it. I know that I hate to say like you're going to have to deal with it, but it's unfortunately at this point, it's a reality. So if it brings you joy, then, find some outlets that can help you with it. Shut off your social media when you need to. Find ways to work around it because there is no point in letting those trolls and those assholes, for lack of a better word, deter you from your dreams. They're sitting there probably miserable with their lives. And if you stop going for your dreams because some miserable dude on the internet or in person or whatever it is said that you don't belong, that's his opinion. That has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. So don't give up your dreams because other people aren't living theirs and they're miserable, because all it is a reflection of their lives. And the best thing you can do is prove them wrong and just do what you love. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You can learn how to deal with the other stuff, but if you stop pursuing your dreams in this industry because you're worried about that, you'll regret it for the rest of your life.
For real. Drop the mic. That's it. I mean, you muted yourself because you're having some connection issues, but I feel like you just said when you muted yourself, you said, yeah.
We know that she did.
Yeah, she definitely did.
And to just build on it, I think also whatever position that you are in or where you are, remember why you wanted to be there in the first place. And speaking specifically for me, this takes the context out of I guess beer league hockey, and because I'm just beginning that avenue. But I mean, when I started in my job as a sideline reporter within the Ontario Hockey League, that is an incredibly male prevalent field where also the audience is, older men as well. And so there was definitely the intimidation factor. And I think that when I went into it, my goal was that, I wanted to be the best that I could be so that I could get to wherever my dreams were at that time. But then very quickly, when I got into that position, it was very foreign for a female to be in that position. They hadn't had that in over 20 years. And the last woman that was there, she's now at TSN. And so people kind of have that as like, they bring the best on. And so that pressure was there. But then I very quickly realized that why I was doing it was because it opened up this entire avenue for little girls who came to the game, who then saw that as another possibility for them, that they could then put on a headset, that they could be interviewing the players and things like that. And so, yes, when, the reality was that fans would walk by and sometimes they'd say things. Luckily, a lot of time I wouldn't hear it because my headset was on. But at the same time, and then people like writing in or just comments of like, oh, well, I see why, they put you on air. And it's like, well, I hope that you hear why. I hope that you learn why. because I'm being able to teach you things and show up that way. And I think that the fact that I've been able to show so many little girls that that's now an avenue that they can take. They can go to school for sports journalism and be a sideline reporter in the Ontario Hockey League or wherever they want to be. That's what I always, I'm able to allow that to come out on top as opposed to whatever may be said and wherever the trolls are coming from, because it's you that is in that position and not them.
Yes, that's so good. I could literally talk to you guys about this forever.
I'm going to say, I'm so happy that you said that, Paige, because before you started talking, I was like, oh, I have something to add. And it was that a little girl out there needs you and she needs to see you in those positions. And that matters way more than any man on the internet.
Yes, that's it. I mean, it's representation. It matters. It truly matters. And being able to see yourself in somebody else's journey or someone else's story is so powerful. So I could talk to you guys about this forever, but I shouldn't do that because people like podcast episodes that are not 5 hours long. That's a lot of time to ask for people. So I ask you one question. Are you ready for rapid fire questions?
Yes. It's been in the back of my mind.
I'm so nervous.
Okay. So Paige, I'm going to ask you to not listen to Kyla's answers. I don't know how you're going to do that.
Want me to take my headphones out?
Oh, good idea.
Okay. Oh my God. I'm so nervous.
Oh my gosh, I'm nervous too. Okay. Jahaan, you wave your hands when I put my headphones back in.
Okay, perfect. All right, here we go, Kyla. You ready?
Oh my God.
No. Like this is like Family Feud. Paige's headphones are off. Okay, here we go. Ready? What is your favorite sports moment?
The 2014 women's hockey gold medal Olympic win in Sochi.
Oh, what is something people always get wrong about you?
That I'm outgoing. I'm actually really, really shy.
What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Oh my God. Cheese.
Oh my God.
I love cheese.
You sound like my husband. Are you a morning or a night person?
A little bit of both, but more night.
Favorite holiday?
I was going to say summer, and that's a season. Canada Day, July, because it's summer.
Yes, my Canadians here. What job would you absolutely be horrible at?
Oh God. Being live on TV, because I need to filter and I need editing.
What product would you seriously stockpile if you found it was going out of business and they weren't going to sell it anymore?
Oh my God. Cheese.
What is your favorite app?
Instagram.
I'm still laughing at the cheese. Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
Oh, wow. Oh, there's like so many people in my head. I would say my mom. That's such a everyone says that, but seriously, my mom.
All right. As a child, what did you wish to become when you grew up?
I wanted to be a teacher, weirdly.
Oh, okay. Finish the sentence. The future of women working in sports is
bright as heck. Get your sunglasses on.
Nice. Awesome. That was so good. All right, good job. And you did wrap it.
It's so scary.
It is not scary.
Honestly,
stop
that
it.
minute, sitting there, I was like, okay, all right.
You're gonna die when you hear this back. I'm so embarrassed.
Oh my God, it was so good. And I feel like we're in Family Feud. All right, Paige, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. What is your favorite sports moment?
I would say last year's WNBA season as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is something people always get wrong about you?
Always get wrong? I'm sorry that I'm pausing. I would say that I'm quiet. Anyone who knew me before would be, yeah, you were quiet. And now they meet me and they're like, oh, no, you're not.
What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Can it be a liquid? Can I say chocolate milk?
Yes. Are you a morning or a night person?
Morning.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
What job would you absolutely be horrible at doing?
Oh, anything to do with science or equations.
Same. What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they were going out of business and they're not going to sell it anymore?
Chocolate milk if it never expired, I think.
Oh my God, you and Kyla. Like, this is hysterical.
Oh my God.
What is well, no, she didn't, but it's really, when you listen back, you'll see. What is your favorite app?
Oh, probably Instagram.
Who's your biggest?
Oh my God.
Nobody can see me, but I just jumped. She just scared me. All right. Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
I'm going to say my little sister.
Oh. As a child, what did you wish to become when you grew up?
A police officer, which I still kind of have that dream a little bit.
It could still happen. Okay. Finish this sentence. The future of women working in sports is?
The way. Booming. The way. Yeah.
Yes, love it.
I don't know if that was grammatically correct, but.
Well, oh my God, don't even talk to me about grammar. Totally fine. You guys, this has been amazing. Tell us how people can get in touch with Her Soul Shot.
Yeah. So hersoulshot.com is our website. The Her Soul Shot podcast is on wherever you find your podcast, or you can listen right on the website. And then on social media, we're at Her Soul Shot on pretty much everything.
All right, you guys, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
This was so fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You are welcome. Everybody go listen to Her Soul Shot. Follow them on Instagram. They are awesome.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.